So you're telling me that Daniel Jones's first 3 years are better than Eli Manning?
Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Diggy546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so the last couple of days, and I've seen this Daniel Jones's entire career, but now we're 3 years in. And at this point, people hate to say it. People hate when I say it, but at this point, I feel like after 3 years in the NFL, you're a vet. I feel like you're a vet at that point. And we've seen 3 years of Daniel Jones. The first year, he had a ton of turnovers, but I would say for the most part, it was promising. I would definitely say for the most part, it was promising. 24 touchdowns in 12 games, 12 interceptions. Not bad. If he'd have played the whole season, who knows how many touchdowns he would have had. I feel like the pace he was on, he would have had 28 to 30 touchdowns at least. I believe he probably would have thrown some more interceptions too. But I do think that rookie year he was off to a really good start. Even in the preseason, the dude looked lights out. His first game, he looked lights out. And I was thinking this dude is going to come to play. So fast forward past his rookie year. Second year, you got Joe Judge there. It's just not clicking. It's just not clicking. We can't get into the end zone. We can't put up points. And I think he had 11 touchdowns. Let me pull up his stats just to make sure I have everything right. One thing I did like about Joe Judge coming is that it seemed like we used Daniel Jones's legs more than we used it in Pat Shurmur's system. So his first year as a starter, Daniel Jones went 3-9, 61 completion percentage, and I'm gonna get to this because this whole video is about Daniel Jones and Eli Manning, and comparing completion percentage with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning makes no sense. They played in two completely different eras. If you had 60% completion percentage or 62, 63 back when Eli was playing in his early days or even his mid-career, you were a really good quarterback. You had a very good, completion percentage. Nowadays, if you're not at 67%, if you're not at 66, a lot of guys, hover around 70% the whole year. If you're not at that spot, you don't have this great completion percentage. And people continue to bring up DJ's completion percentage. I don't think that's something you can compare. But in his first year as a starter, he went 3-9. Already kind of hovered over that, went over the touchdowns and interceptions. Let's see if I can pull up the fumbles. I'm pretty sure that year he had 19 fumbles. Now, he didn't lose all of those fumbles, but he did have 19 fumbles. And one thing that I'll say is he definitely fumbled about 3 or 4 times that year that led specifically to touchdowns going back the other way. Literally, the ball left his hand as a fumble and went back the other way for a touchdown. So those are things you cannot ignore. Those are things, yes, they should have protected him better, but also he's giving up points that way. And it really turned into disaster. But that's his rookie season. It also starts to happen in his second season, which I kind of started off going towards, and I'll get to it here. So after his first season, he went 3-9. After his second season, he went 5-9, which is a better winning percentage than the first season, actually, and 11 touchdowns. So his touchdowns were cut completely in half, and then you subtract 1. So his touchdowns were cut in half. His interceptions went down by 2 from 12 to 10. And he played I would say he played 2 more games. He played 2 more games than he did his first year. And then you look at the fumbles. Let's check it. Only 10 fumbles. So if you're a quarterback, you're fumbling 10 times in a season. That's not great, but it's also not horrible. It's not a disastrous amount of fumbles like how he had his rookie year, which is something people failed to address. Looking at his third year, again, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and I think he had 7 fumbles. So look at the yards, hovers around 3,000 his first 2 years. His third year, I think he played 11 games, so that was 1 game less than 2019, and he had around 2,400 yards. So let's see if I can get like a yardage per game stat. I'm looking through this live, so you're gonna get my live reactions to some of these stats that I see here. So I can't find yardage per game yet, but for the most part, he was never a guy that had a bunch of yardage per game. So Daniel Jones for his career right now is 12 and 25. He is at a 62.8, which is basically a 63 completion percentage, 8,300 yards, 45 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. So the touchdown to interception ratio is not the worst, but it's also not the best, but I can live with it. He's just got to get the touchdowns up some more. So these 10 and 12 and 10 and 10 touchdown to interception ratio seasons, that can never happen again. Joe Judge and Jason Garrett, that can never happen again. I'm expecting that to never happen again. He can't do that. So when you think about that and you start comparing him to Eli Manning, and I just gave a, you would probably say I gave a pretty unbiased overview of Daniel Jones' stats. Comparing them to Eli Manning 2004 through 2006, first of all, Eli Manning didn't miss any games in this time period. He didn't miss any games. Started off 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and what he played 7 games his rookie year. This is back again where quarterbacks routinely came in as rookies and looked horrible when they came in. No matter how highly they were touted, most quarterbacks came in and just threw interceptions all over the place. Peyton Manning had a decent year. I think he had 22, 24 touchdowns and 20 something interceptions. So first season wasn't that great. Second season, 3,700 yards, which is already more than DJ's ever thrown in his career. Even in an abbreviated season, you still would expect him to have gotten to 3,200 yards so far, but still no. 3,700 yards his second season, 24 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. I would say that that's a solid season. You probably want to see the interceptions go down a bit, but 24 and 17 is not horrible. Also, his team went 11 and 5. He also had that signature Denver Broncos win and a couple of other signature wins in his second season. His third season, 24 touchdowns again, 18 interceptions, pretty much the same. And if we could get this out of DJ on a team that was as good as Eli's team was, probably could win something. But this is what he was looking at. And when you look at this, really, 2005, 2006, 24 touchdowns in that era is more around like 29 touchdowns. I won't say like 35 or anything like that. Around 29 to 30 touchdowns. So that's decent production out of his first 3 years. Did he have, too many interceptions? Probably a little bit too much. But you look at his team's record, 1 and 6, which is understandable his rookie year, and then 11 and 5, and then 8 and 8. So these are seasons where he's a winning kind of quarterback. And yes, he had a Monty tumor. Yes, he had Plaxico eventually. Yes, he had Ike Hilliard at the beginning. And I mean, it's not like Ike Hilliard, it was like a superstar, but he had Tiki Barber, who probably performed better than Saquon has at the beginning of DJ's career. But the matter of fact is, Eli Manning changed, or it didn't really change, but once he started to hit that gear, he became a Hall of Fame quarterback. And you're looking off of 2 back-to-back 24 touchdown seasons in 2005 and 2006. You're looking at the fact that both of these seasons were winning seasons. Well, 8 and 8 is a push, but 11 and 5 is a good season. And a quarterback has a ton to do with that team doing that. Yes, he had a running game. Yes, he had a better line. But a quarterback contributes to how good that team is and has to seal the deal at the end of a lot of these games. You look at right after that, and we're not comparing. I haven't seen people comparing DJ's entire career, but this is my point. It's like if you draft a quarterback, how can you say that he's going to be better than this other quarterback or compare him to this other quarterback when we have a long resume? A lot of people remember Eli Manning from 2013 to the end of his career, where he was playing in basically the exact same situation that Daniel Jones is playing in now. But he was a vet, so it didn't look as bad. But you look at this and you see 11 and 5, 8 and 8, 10 and 6, 12 and 4, 8 and 8, 10 and 6, 9 and 7, 9 and 7, 7 and 9 is his first bad year. And then it kind of all went down from there as far as record wise. But that's sustained success, never a losing season from 2005 to 2012. Never a losing season for 7 years straight. This is what we're talking about when we say sustained success. And I cannot say that Daniel Jones has proven that he could be a quarterback that could do that in this league if I haven't seen him do it. I haven't seen him do it. Now, yes, his situations haven't been the best, but I have not seen Daniel Jones go out there year in and year out, game in and game out, and play consistently solid football. And not to say Eli didn't have his down games, but to be a guy that's there every week physically, and a guy that's going to give you pretty much, you know what you're going to get. Yes, he has some bad games, but everybody does. But for the most part, you know he's going to make some big plays. You know he's going to have you in the game for the most part. And you know at the end of the season, you're not going to be sitting at, 2 and 14 or 2 and, I guess now it's 2 and 15, 3 and 13. You're not going to be looking at horrible looking seasons like that, because you're going to be a guy that you're going to have a guy that's going to keep you afloat, and that's going to make sure that he closes out the deal in a lot of these close games. But essentially what I'm saying is, it is so inappropriate to compare Daniel Jones after back-to-back seasons where he's thrown 11 touchdowns and 10 touchdowns respectively to a guy that's going to the Hall of Fame. He's probably going to go in his first time. If not, it'll be his second time. But he's going to the Hall of Fame, and we're comparing Eli Manning to Daniel Jones. When again, Eli Manning had already gone 11 and 5 and been to the playoffs at this point. Eli Manning had already proven himself to be a starting quarterback. Now, were they calling for a job? Yes, they were calling for a job. Were they calling for Coughlin's job? Yes. But at the end of the day, they had already gone to the playoffs. They had already done things. We had already seen them in big moments. Daniel Jones hasn't gotten himself to those big moments. We haven't seen that signature primetime performance. We saw a signature 1 o'clock performance in his first game, but we haven't seen that signature primetime performance. And let's not pretend that we have not seen this guy miss throws, that we have not seen this guy, do all of these things to help his team lose these games. Again, fumble return for touchdowns. You got interceptions at the end of games against the Rams where he just throws it directly to the guy. I won't kill him for that too much because it was kind of the end of the game and he kind of just threw it up. But we've seen the Bucs game where everything was going our way. The defense was playing great. Everything was clicking. And Daniel Jones just throws interception after interception after interception. Turnover after turnover. He literally, he threw the ball directly to the defensive tackle. I mean, we've seen this happen. We've seen him go out and go against the Patriots as a rookie and do the same thing. And again, that was his rookie season. But let's not pretend that we haven't seen Daniel Jones help lose this team games. This has not been all like everybody's bad and Daniel Jones is trying to fight by itself. We've seen it a couple of games, like the Eagles game, his one game that could have been a primetime classic. Evan Ingram drops the ball. So, yes, he hasn't gotten a fair shake, but he's not Eli Manning. He can't be Eli Manning until he goes out there and does something on some of the bigger stages. He's got to get his team into the playoffs. He's got to sustain success for 7 years. Sustain not having a losing season for 7 years. He's got to be that guy that says, my offensive line is horrible right now. My receivers are dropping the ball. My receivers are running the wrong routes, making me throw interceptions, which a lot of people don't want to cover for Eli. He has to be that guy that sees all of this and says, it doesn't matter, I'm putting my team on my back. He has to be that guy that takes off and runs, and when he takes off and runs, he slides instead of diving head first and then missing the next 4 or 5 games because he's injured. And that's really the biggest thing with Daniel Jones for me. And I'll wrap this up. He's got to stay healthy. That's the biggest difference between Eli Manning and most quarterbacks. You got to stay healthy, because it doesn't matter if Daniel Jones goes out there and he's on pace for 50 touchdowns. If the guy plays like how he's played and doesn't learn how to protect his body, we're going to be missing him for 4, 5, 6 games a year. And that's not sustainable. Unless he's Aaron Rodgers, unless he's Patrick Mahomes, unless he's literally one of these top 2, 3 quarterbacks in the league every year, missing your starting quarterback for 4, 5, 6 games every year is not sustainable. And we'll continue to be at 7-9, 8-8, or what, 7-10, 8-9, 9 and whatever one game out of the playoffs is. We'll continue to be at that record year after year, because our starter, who's lighting it on fire, is missing games. So he's got to prove that he can stay healthy. He's got to prove that he can be that guy day in and day out and be consistent. And he's got to show that he can win on some of the bigger stages before we start to talk about him in the same sentence as Eli. So you guys let me know what you think of this whole discussion. I just had to get on here because I've been seeing way too much, in my opinion, Eli disrespect. You made it this deep into the video. Come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.